Hello friends, this video on isolation of elements part 6 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. In the next step, as I told, once we have got the concentrated ore, we have to extract the crude metal from the concentrated ore. So this was my raw ore. This became my concentrated ore. And from this we got this. We'll get impure metal first, or we'll call it crude metal. Yeah, so we'll now discuss about this process. So this is already, we have discussed a lot of methods to get concentrated ore from the raw ore. Now we'll try to extract the crude metal from this concentrated ore. Correct. So as I told, these metals are generally reactive and they are found either in oxides or sulfide form. Right, these metals, these concentrated ore is generally in the oxide or sulfide or sometimes in carbonate. So they are in this form. So we have to reduce this, because if you see metal oxide, for example, I have, or sulfide PBS, here this is +2 state and the pure PB will be 0 state. So we have to actually reduce these sulfides to metal, or if you talk about oxides also, the oxidation number of the metal is higher. So we have to actually reduce them to get pure metal. Hope you understood why we are telling you have to reduce, why we are saying we don't have to oxidize. See, typically in case of metals, if you talk about the oxide, carbonates or sulfides, the oxidation number of metal is high, and in the pure metal form the oxidation number of metal is 0. So we are talking about the reduction in the oxidation number, and we are talking about reduction process, right? So we have to reduce these oxides or sulfides or carbonate ores to the metal. And also we have noted that it is easier to reduce oxides. Oxide easy to reduce. Correct. So what we do is, sometimes we convert sulfide to oxide and then reduce if it is sulfide ore. Right. So there are two steps actually. They are calcination and roasting. So in all these steps, calcination and roasting, we need heat. So calcination and roasting, what we do, we convert to oxide. You see, we're talking about conversion to oxide. As I told, sometimes the sulfides and the carbonates we convert to oxide first, and then we reduce oxides to metal. So this is the first part. Calcination or roasting, in both these cases, we first convert the sulfides or carbonates to oxide. Okay, so let's talk about the calcination part. See, calcination is nothing but, again, you need heat, removal of volatile fraction. So we try to remove the volatile fraction from the ore. So it implies simple heating. Simple heating in presence of limited air or no air. Limited air or almost no air, very less air. Actually, air is not required. Right? So in this case, if you see, the volatile material escapes out. For example, I have Fe2O3. It has some water component also in this ore, but it is good to have Fe2O3. So what we'll do is we'll heat it and you get Fe2O3, and the volatile component, that is water, escaped out. If I have zinc carbonate, you heat this, you get zinc oxide and carbon dioxide. If I have calcium carbonate dot MgCO3, in this also, if you heat it, it becomes calcium oxide magnesium oxide and carbon dioxide. You see, carbonates also we are converting into oxide, and we are also removing the volatile component. So this is derived from the Latin word, actually calcination derived from the Latin word called calcinare. And calcinare means what? To burn lime. This process was actually used to burn lime. Lime is what? CaCO3. So CaCO3, when you heat in absence of air, it becomes CaO and CO2. So the same method to heat a ore in absence of air is used here, right? And it removes the volatile fraction, and also it converts the carbonates to oxide. This is what? Calcination. Please note, in the absence or almost limited supply of air. The next is roasting. Roasting is also same thing. You have to heat this, but you heat this in the presence of air. And you have to heat this at a temperature below melting point. In fact, this temperature below melting point is true even for calcination. Even for calcination, we generally heat below melting point. A good example can be, if you see, I have a zinc sulfide, you heat this in the presence of air, you get zinc oxide and SO2 gas. So in this, if you see, sulfide is converted to oxide. So if you want, you can balance this. Same thing, I have lead sulfide, I'll write a balance reaction for you. So you get lead oxide and sulfur dioxide. Same thing, I have Ce2S, copper sulfide. Now if you heat this, you get Cu2O and SO2. Right? So in all these, whatever SO2 gas which you get, this is used to prepare sulfuric acid. Because see, these reaction happens on a large scale and we can't waste so much of sulfur dioxide. This is all industrial process. So these are used again to prepare sulfuric acid. Okay. Now, one point to note that if, for example, if copper ore has only copper sulfide, you use this method. But let's suppose it has iron also as impurity. So if it has iron also as impurity, what we do is we mixed silica also. So what will happen is, for example, this iron ore is my impurity in this case. So I'm talking about this case now. Let's suppose there was an impurity with copper sulfide. That means I had an ore which has Cu2S and FeO, where this is FeO is my impurity, and this is the copper ore actually. So what we do is we also mix SiO2 in the whole ore. When you do the same process, when you heat it, this forms slag, and the slag can easily be removed. Correct? Why I am telling you is this. See, in this roasting process or calcination process, it involves huge amount of heat. There is a huge amount of heat here, right? So we take advantage of this heat. Even if it contains other impurities, we add something to form slag. So the same heat will be used to form slag. You don't need to repeat the process again and again, right? So in this case, I had a copper ore which had iron oxide as an impurity, so we added SiO2, that is silica, before this process, so that when this ore is being heated, my impurity is converted to slag. So as I have told, the first step was to convert the sulfides, carbonates to oxides, right? Now I have got the oxide ore. Now I have to get the crude metal from the oxide ore by reduction. So it also involves heating, but it needs some reducing agent. And reducing agent is normally carbon. Why? Because it is cheap and it has a good reducing capability. It is available, right? So if you see typical reaction, for example, metal is my metal and MXOY is a typical metal oxide. You react with some carbon, you get XM and YCO. Carbon becomes carbon monoxide and you get the metal. This is the typical reaction. A good example is FeO. Let's suppose this is my oxide. React with carbon, I get Fe plus CO. Right? Now, the good part or the trick here is some metal oxides can easily be reduced by carbon, but some are difficult to reduce. Right? To understand why some metal oxides reduce easily and why some metal oxides are hard to reduce, we need to understand the concepts of thermodynamics. And here is the application of thermodynamics to make this process better, because I can't say that carbon is a universal reducing agent. Carbon works in some case, it doesn't work in some case. Some metals are easy to reduce, so you need some temperature. Some metals are hard to reduce, so you may have to increase the temperature. But try to understand that these reactions happen on a large scale. So this temperature and this reducing agent both involves cost, both involves money, right? So we want to make this better so that the total cost of the reducing agent and the heat is less. And this is where thermodynamics comes into picture and helps us to identify that for a given metal oxide, which is the best reducing agent you can use and what is the optimum temperature you can use so that the total cost involved is less. Correct? See, there can be a scenario where if you use a particular reducing agent, you don't even need temperature. But actually what matters is what is the cost of that reducing agent. Is it available for cheap? Because it's all at industrial scale. Right? You want to minimize the cost. The cost is a critical factor here. So we are looking for a reducing agent which can do its work in a decent way, that should be cheap, and also the temperature required should be in a decent scale. It should not be very high. It should not be on the range 5000 degree Celsius or 5000 Kelvin. It should be on the range of 500, 600 at the max, 100, 1000 or 1500 Kelvin kind of range. So here thermodynamics helps us.
Thank you. Visit examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online tests, get free study materials, find tutors and mentors, and much more. Thanks once again.